Welcome back, City Builders. Kodiak the Kodiak here, and today we're diving into the harmonious world of Cities Skylines II. In the latest developer diary, Sound and Music, the game's soundscape has undergone some major upgrades. Colossal Order, the developers behind Cities Skylines, have juiced up our favorite radio stations with some valuable insights about our city. Plus, they've introduced audio grouping into your city, allowing you to have a deeper and more immersive experience while flying around. And before we continue, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and don't forget to turn on notifications so that way you can keep up to date on all the Cities Skylines 2 news. And don't forget to leave a comment down below and let me know how you feel about all the new sound changes. Let's tune our ears to the new sounds of the city in Cities Skylines 2. Okay, before we get started, I just want to thank any of you who stopped by my subathon that I did this weekend for the launch of Starfield. It was a cap subathon, it ended yesterday, and any remaining time that we had from it will be carrying over to October 24th when we will be doing a subathon on Twitch for the launch of Cities Skylines. So if you guys are interested in checking that out, please make sure that you drop a follow to my Twitch down in the description down below, and we'll be starting at about 40 hours and 18 minutes, which is super awesome. So I want to thank everyone for all your support for the subathon. It was great. Before we move on, if you didn't notice, I shaved as one of the goals for the subathon as well, so you will have to deal with my mustache for a little while. Anyways, let's move on into the dev diary. This week is all about sound and music. It's definitely a little short. The dev diary goes into much greater detail on how they actually came to create the sounds that they created. I'm not going to be covering that in detail. If you guys actually want to read about the composer, how they came up with the sounds that they actually used for the soundscape and things like that, you guys can read that yourself. I'm just not going to cover it. I want to stick to just gameplay elements. Just like I wouldn't cover how they coded the actual highways themselves. I'm not going to cover how they went to create the music themselves. But there's actually a lot of useful elements to sound and the radio, as a matter of fact, in Cities Skylines 2. So I'm really excited to dive on in, and without further ado, let's get into it.
The sounds of the city. Inspiring. Exciting. Annoying.
Yeah.
In Cities Skylines 2, a rich and dynamic soundscape.
Before we move any further, speaking of annoying, if you guys remember from Cities Skylines 1, there is that annoying beeping sound when you zoom into your city. It's gone. I didn't hear it throughout this entire video. Thank the heavens it's gone. I don't know who thought that was a good idea to have a constant beeping sound when you zoom into your city, but it's not there anymore. Thank God.
Brings your city to life. What would a city be without the hum of traffic and people? To ratchet up the realism of Cities Skylines 2, vehicles, people, and animals add to the audio mix. Cars even sound different depending on how fast they're going, while sirens match the European or North American theme of your city.
You can tell this build's kind of earlier in development because the flashing lights are coming from seemingly nowhere on this cop car and not the actual light bar on top.
Click on a person and you'll hear an audio cue that expresses their age, gender, and mood.
I wish that they had shown two different moods for this, because it's just, two people going, like happily going, I want to hear what a sad,
Even animals will have something to say when you click.
So the sounds for animals, they put in the written portion, but I'll just talk about it right now. The sounds for animals are based on the type of animal. So if it's a cat or like different types of dogs, I guess, will have different barks, if that makes sense. But I don't think that there's cats in the... Did they shown a cat yet? I don't think that there's cats in the base game of Cities Skylines 2 yet, or maybe at least that we've seen. If you guys have seen a cat in Cities Skylines 2, let me know down in the comments.
All city service buildings have sounds related to their function and operational status. These sounds can change with the time of the day, the outside temperature, and when it's extended or upgraded. By layering sound loops with distinctive audio spots, city service buildings add variation and texture to the city's soundscape. Ambient sounds are more than background audio. They follow the camera, changing according to whatever you're looking at. Move from one zone type to another, the ambient sounds change.
I really like that. I really like how it's so fluid and dynamic in this game, and they'll go into it in the dev diary too. And as we watch the video, you'll learn more about how this actually functions. But the way the actual background sounds work now, or at least maybe they worked like this in some ways, like in Cities Skylines 1, are much nicer. Okay.
When bad weather blows in, the ambient sounds change. As an emergency unfolds, the ambient sounds change.
I like how this lady's just sitting down here on her bench while the building next to her is like on fire.
There are 2 radio networks in City Skylines II.
We kind of looked at the radio a little bit during the Cities in the Sky event, and so if you guys want to check out that video, which is just me live reacting to the day 1 of Cities in the Sky, you can look at it up in the annotation somewhere up above. And on Wednesday, I'm shooting for Wednesday, we'll have a live reaction of me reacting again on my Twitch stream that I did to Rudy Remcamel's playthrough. So he was probably the most experienced of all of the City Skyline, or all the people who did Cities in the Sky. So I did a specific sit down and watch through of his. That should be out on Wednesday if everything goes according to plan. Life is very busy right now. But we already kind of went over the radio, and some key things of note here. They will go over all of them, actually. I was going to bring them up just now, but I actually think they go all over all of them. So
each network features a few stations playing music.
So we have smooth beat and the vibe. This is something I didn't actually take the time to look at. We have smooth beat and the vibe.
From different genres.
And it tells you the
Stations
song
have
at the bottom.
hosts who talk between songs and anchor the talk show if there is one. Public citizen radio.
You can see right here, they're not really talking about what they're doing, but you can see down here that you can disable ads or enable ads. You can also have public service announcements. So one of these is public radio. I think it's this left one, and the right one is more of a consumer radio. They actually named them in the written portion of the diary, which we'll look at. But one of them does PSAs on both of their radio stations, and then the other one does commercials. So the ad toggle is for both the PSAs and the commercials, as far as I understand it. So it's just to turn off the narrator or the actual radio host themselves.
Stations mostly play classical music.
Actually, I don't think that that's true either. I don't think it turns off the radio host. It might turn off the radio host. It definitely turns off the ads though, and the PSAs. Pop in
there too.
So here it is. So it's the Second Moon Music Nonstop.
Part is these stations are ad-free. Radio stations do more than entertain you. They're designed to deliver news and information about what's happening in your city. The
smooth beat is kind of nice.
Fact-based announcements can.
You know, normally I listen to my own music when I play City Skylines, mostly because I stream or record a lot of the times, and so I can filter it out essentially from my OBS or my Twitch stream. But that's pretty nice.
Help you address critical situations before they get out of hand. Of course, that includes disaster alerts. Whatever's playing on the radio will be interrupted if disaster strikes.
I think that's super awesome that they've added a usefulness to the radio in this game. It was just kind of like background filler for me, essentially. It would always come out with the radio packs. I never bought them because I don't listen to the in-game audio. I just listen to my own music. I can just turn the music off and then just listen to my own Spotify or whatever the heck I'm listening to, right? Like if I want to watch another video or a Twitch stream, I could just listen to that. But I'm glad that they've added some kind of usefulness to the radio now too, because it just kind of felt like wasted space on my screen. And now it's actually gonna have some usefulness if you're playing with disasters on. So
all citizens in the affected area are instructed to immediately move to a safe distance until the situation is under control.
Don't worry if you miss it. You'll also hear an alarm if you've built an early disaster warning system building. To avoid
nice, they did the whole sound for that. Anyways, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's great. I think it's great that they actually took the time to make it more of a useful feature, just like they did with Chirper. They took these background filler features that really didn't have any weight or importance to them in City Skylines 1, and they actually made them useful, which is, I think that's really good. I think that shows that's really good attention to detail from the developers, and I think it's a really good sign that they want to make everything actually have usefulness for you. So it makes me hopeful and excited that when they come out with more features for the game, inevitably with DLCs, that they'll actually be useful and not just a gimmick or a reoccurring thing, you know?
Overwhelming you with too many sounds at once, City Skylines 2 uses audio grouping. This system accounts for the distance and number of sound sources relative to the camera. Then it reduces the number of potential audio sources activating simultaneously. It also switches between close and distant sounds, so traffic on a busy highway miles away doesn't sound as close as that police cruiser speeding past.
Something I've noticed since we've kind of discovered that in City Skylines 2, the billboards on the buildings kind of represent which business occupies it, is that you see a lot of repetitive. I'm starting to notice a lot more repetitive billboards in cities now. So I really hope that like DLCs in the future, or like creator packs, or even modders in the workshop, asset creators, for example, can help us fill those voids of like, well, we have 15 Banhammer banks all in the same area in this city, if that makes sense, right? And so I would like some diversity, because it's something I'm noticing a lot in these early builds of the game, at least, that there's just kind of like 2 or 3 for each, I guess, type of product. So I hope that does get expanded on in the future, because I don't want to see like 15 Banhammer banks in the same area. That's just like one thing I really have started kind of paying attention to. But back on the topic of audio, I think the audio grouping is a really nice feature and a really nice way to tackle the audio clustering, where like you know they'll say like there's 15 of this sound and there's 10 of this sound. We're gonna make the 15 a little louder and then put that one to the audio floor. So that's really nice.
A police cruiser speeding past.
Oh, and then she just said something. Hold on,
doesn't sound as close as that police cruiser speeding past. The immersive audio of City Skylines 2 is designed to enrich your city building experience. Embrace it and lose yourself in a world of your imagination.
You hear that bus in the background? I mean, I think that they did a really nice job with the music in this game, and like just the audio in general coming around, just based on this video and based on what we saw at Cities in the Sky, just from the random background sounds we could actually hear. It does sound like a much nicer audio than we got in City Skylines 1, which is really exciting. So I hope you guys enjoyed just the video portion of this. We're going to move into the written portion of the diary now. This is about the middle point of the video, where I like to thank my Discord patrons and my YouTube members. So I just want to give a huge verbal shout out to J15, Wine9RKP, and Wheatbread, as well as my other patrons, which will be on screen down below. And then let's move on to the written portion. Okay, before we move on to the written section, there is an actual slide in the written section that covers the in-game audio, essentially, right? And we also get to see more about the actual in-game options over here. So we have general graphics, gameplay, interface, audio, input, and about. We also have, we can enable the radio, but basically there's a simple and advanced audio tab. I think that's actually really interesting. I'm very interested to see what the differences are between here. I wonder if this is just gone in simple, or how it's going to work. Music and menu music are different. I'm very interested to see how they broke down simple versus advanced. But in advanced, we have master volume, interface volume, menu music volume, game volume. You can toggle the radio, shows you the radio volume, ambience volume, disaster volume, sound effects volume, background sound volume, and service building volume. And if we think about that in terms of audio grouping, if we don't want the disasters to have audio when we zoom up to them, like how we heard the fire earlier, you could just smash that out, and then you'll just hear, I would assume you would just hear the normal ambience of your neighborhood, or would it just cut out the sound floor based on how they're doing the audio grouping, right? Because if the audio grouping is set to put the disaster volume really high and then your neighborhood audio really low, but you rip out the disaster volume, would it just be really quiet then? I'm really interested to see how they tackle that. But anyways, let's actually move into the written portion now. Okay, so here we are in the written portion of the diary. Again, I only highlighted the sections that actually, like, I felt like had some kind of importance to the gameplay or how you might experience it. There is an entire section about the composer of the game right here. I'm not gonna read through it. A lot of it is like their process and how they made it and how they made each section. Like, here's like some written sheet music for the game. We're not covering that in this video. I'm sorry if you thought I would. I'm not gonna read about how they made the music for the game. I think that's like I just don't think that that's like a productive use of our time, essentially. But if you want to read it, it's in the description down below. Anyways, let's move on to sound here. So sound. City service buildings are the focus of audio in City Skylines 2. Almost all service buildings and their upgrades have unique sounds that reflect the building's functionality, but also provide more detailed information about the building's operational status. Additionally, building sounds now have short, randomized audio spots together with their sound loops to create an interesting and varied building sound. So there will be an audio loop constantly playing in the background, whether that's a factory and there's like banging going on, and there'll be an occasional maybe like a whistle or something, just something to kind of break it up so it doesn't just feel like a constant loop, which is really cool. I think that's a nice way to handle that. Because City Skylines 2 features much larger buildings, some buildings host dynamic audio sources. This source reacts to the camera position so that the building audio can be heard properly in every corner in even huge building complexes. Building sounds can also react to the time of day, temperature, and other building conditions based on building's functionality, and attaching new building upgrades often adds new building sounds. As a few examples, school buildings are silent during the night, which totally makes sense, and bird songs can only be heard when the temperatures are above a certain threshold. There's obviously still birds in the winter, depending on where you live, right? I live in Michigan, for example, and we have our state bird is the robin, and it migrates south for the winter. But we still have birds like the chickadee in the winter. However, if it gets too cold, definitely don't hear the chickadee anymore. So, pretty good, pretty cool. We'll just go through all of this here, and we get to audio grouping, which kind of explains how audio grouping works a bit more. The game switches between close and distant audio based on the camera position and the number of audio sources in its proximity. This system allows you to hear the sounds of traffic from a much greater distance, such as a busy highway from afar. Audio grouping allows zoned areas to sound distinctive, which is good. The sound heard depends on the distance of the camera from the area in question. As an example, observing a busy commercial zone from a distance sounds different from observing it close, and the amount of stores directly affects the sound. I am curious if it's fully directional, or if it's based on the sphere that is the actual camera itself. Like, if you're above an audio source but not looking at it, do you hear it still? That's something that I'm kind of curious about, how audio directionality works. It's very unimportant. I'm just curious how it works. So if we scroll down further here, we have vehicles, citizens, and animals. We have put an emphasis on vehicles and traffic sounds as they are a core part of your city. Remember, folks, cities aren't noisy, cars are noisy. And cars echo a lot in cities. Vehicle audio changes based on the speed of the vehicle. Style variation for vehicle sirens is chosen automatically based on theme. So if you pick the American theme, you get an American cop car. If you pick the European theme, you get the European cop car. We've kind of already looked at that. So they showed that in the video at least. So now we move on to the music, and this is... I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm probably not going to be able to pronounce his name. I think it's Joan. Maybe it's John. I'm very sorry. I'm trying my best. I think it's Joan. Is a Finnish composer who works together with Jani Laksi. So, okay, I'm sorry. I'm not even going to try it. I'm so sorry. Wrote the music for City Skylines, and we're excited to hear what he has created for City Skylines 2. So they're bringing back the same guy. I like the actual background music for City Skylines 1. I thought it's nice. Even though I don't play with it very often, it is nice. They give an entire description from them about how they compose the music for City Skylines 2, the process, all of that stuff. That's all through here. Again, I'm not going to cover it because it's not... related to an actual core gameplay feature. So to keep things efficient here. So radio. City Skylines 2 has 2 radio networks, which are the top category for radio functionality. The networks function as station collections, and the biggest difference is the type of content that they provide between songs, which I kind of explained earlier with the public radio and the commercial radio, right? Public citizen radio is a public network that leans a bit more towards classical and miscellaneous popular music. So the things at the top are the networks, and then you get into the actual stations when you get below. So public citizen radio, we already read that, a bit more miscellaneous popular music. The public network plays public service announcements, but has no ads. The thing is I don't know if you toggle... I know I said this earlier where I think that this works, but I'm actually thinking about it more, and I actually don't know now. If you toggle the ads off, does it not? I'm assuming it doesn't play the public service announcements. That's my assumption, right? But I just want to preface that I don't actually know that for sure. Then there's Urban City Radio, is a commercial network themed more around popular music, which has the 2 radio stations that we saw. The commercial network plays ads but has no public service announcements. Each network has a selection of radio stations under it, which represents the current music genre or style. The The two stations have hosts. The two stations, the two commercial ones, have a host who is the heart of the station and the anchor of the show. The game also includes a music-only station for those who prefer it. I'm not really too sure what they mean by the game also includes a music-only station for those who prefer it. I don't know if like one of these is like a music-only station. They don't really like elaborate. Is it just because if you could toggle ads off, right? But there's only 3 stations. The one's the public citizen radio, and then is that the one? It can't be the only music. So I don't really understand where this is coming from. If you track my logic, where the music-only station, but they talk about 2 radio anchors on this one, and the other one has public service announcements. So I'm not. Is that the city radio? I wish they had explained that. Anyways, I think it's nice. I think it's nice that they give us some options. I wish there was a little bit more of a selection at the start, but it's a pretty minimal gameplay element, especially when you can just listen to your own music at the end of the day. So it's still nice that they've kind of broken it up and given us a little bit more structure to the radio station networks. I obviously also hope that all of the songs are DMCA safe, so content creators can obviously use, like myself, all the radio. In addition to playing music, station talk shows, and ads, the new radio system is capable of more intricate behavior that can take simulation conditions into account. For example, the radio can play news and public service announcements, which are fact-based and informative clips about the events and problems in your city. Love the usefulness. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. So now when you actually hear a radio ad or like a public service announcement from your public service radio station, if that's what you're listening to, it will actually be on something. So if there's like way too much water consumption, there might be a public service announcement telling you to use less water or something like that, which is super cool. When disaster strikes, the players hear the disaster-related radio announcement from the radio, which interrupts the current radio broadcast. A disaster alarm is also emitted from the earlier disaster system building if a player has the building in their city. So if you have that, you can also, you'll hear the early alert, warning, right? As a result, the radio can provide both entertainment while you work in your city and highlight important information or critical situations when you need to address. I think it's awesome. I love the usefulness that they've added to the radio, just like I love the usefulness that they've added to Chirper. And that's pretty much the end. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Pretty short, especially for a dev diary. I can't imagine there's going to be much in the dev insight. However, if we come back over to the YouTube video, we'll notice that there's a new developer being shown in this dev insight, someone we haven't seen before. I don't know who this is. So excited. We actually get to see a new developer. So there might be more on the ground stuff in this dev insight where they actually like go more in depth. They basically give what I thought they were going to do with these dev diaries, where they actually go into the developers, right? Just like they went into the composer of the game. Even though we didn't cover it, that's what I kind of expected these to be. And then they ended up being just chock full of information about the actual game itself. So maybe they're actually getting into that this next Thursday. So make sure you guys are subscribed and have notifications on so you can check up with that. I'm hoping that, again, have the Rudy Remkemel reaction up on Wednesday, so that way you guys have content all the way through. You have Wednesday's content, you have Thursday's content, and then on Friday you can check out any of the content creators that got selected to show you off early access for City Skylines 2. Again, was not reached out to, so I suggest you guys check out Slay 3K or Canadian Moose Plays. Their channel links will be in the description down below. So I want to thank you guys for watching this week. I appreciate it, and I will catch you guys on Thursday, hopefully Wednesday, but then otherwise Thursday for the Dev Insights. Deuces.